In this episode, I have a Pioneer CT F500. This is an old two-head Dolby B cassette deck that supports standard parachrome and chrome tapes only. 1979-80 was when this unit came out. This is my own personal deck. I've had this thing since it was almost new. Got it from an old friend, traded him, I think, an old CB radio for it. Let's take a look. I got this unit from a friend. Lived up the street from me, and when I got it, it had the original VU meters on it, but one of the VU meters was shot. It wouldn't move. So rather than replace the VU meter, I got the brilliant idea that maybe we'll convert this over to an LED peak meter. So that's what I did. There was a company around called RAE Industrial Electronics. It was right out by BCIT. And I used to shop there, buy parts and stuff. In fact, that's where my Iwatsu scope came from that I bought in about 1984. I bought this long before that, though. These ones are probably around 1980, because I would have been still in high school when I built these meters and put them into this tape deck, because the analog meters, I don't remember what happened to it. I think the guy that owned it, he dropped it or something. Anyway, they were jammed. They wouldn't move. Anyway, I couldn't get analog meters. I wasn't going to order one from Pioneer and pay a small fortune for it. So at the time, the LED peak meters were what everybody wanted, right? Everybody wanted LED meters. Analog meters were, who wants analog meters? So I built two of these kits, set them up, and replaced the meters on this unit. This unit's been sitting for many years. It's going to need belts for sure. I haven't turned this thing on in forever. It's been just sitting in a storage locker, and I just dug it out. It's actually in pretty good shape considering how long it's been sitting. Doesn't even have any dirt on it. Let's get the top off this one, and we're going to take a look and see if I can get this thing working. It'll be kind of interesting to see how it sounds and if it still works. So first things first. Already missing screws. Why does that not surprise me? I haven't been into this thing forever, so I don't know what to expect in here. Probably a real rat's nest. Well, I did fully expect the belts to be all trashed, but the belts actually aren't. I was expecting them to be just a bunch of goo. I mean, the belts need to be changed because it's slipping, but yeah, I expected them to be shot, and they weren't. So let's just plug the power in on this thing and see if it does anything. These are the boards that I put in. Oh, isn't that awful? Awful soldering. It's almost embarrassing to think that I put that thing together, but hey, I would have been probably 14 or 15 when I put those boards together, because this was an awful long time ago that I fit this thing in. I wonder if it would be possible to put analog meters back in this thing. Nope. Unfortunately, there used to be a plastic pillar that went down here, and it's been cut out. Also, one of the lights has fallen out of place for the Dolby, but that can go back in place, no problem. Well, let's see if this thing can be made to work, or whether it is working. So power, that lights up. Does the motor turn on? The motor turns on. And everything seems to move. Here's the Autostop mechanism compared to how that Sony worked. Okay, very, very similar, but a lot simpler. On this one here, you've just got this double-sided cam. And if I were to open up the cassette compartment, press play. Where are we here? Of course, this one here won't let you put it in play if the door's not closed, so I've got to remove the front door. There, now I can put it in play. Okay, if I put it in play and I stop the take-up spool from turning, you see that? That's linked to the take-up spool through this little belt down here that's spinning. So this little belt right here, that's going to the take-up spool. And if the reel stops turning, it stops it just like that, and it works on all modes. So if I'm in play and the tape gets to the end, the auto stop lever moves over, and then the cam flips it. If it's in rewind, for example, when the tape is rewinding, it's going like this because the reel is turning the opposite direction. And again, tape stops, pushes that little lever over, and then the cam grabs it and shuts it off. Pretty neat system. This needs a capstan belt for sure, because if I press play and I can stop the flywheel from turning. The play belt isn't too bad. I'm just going to check it out for torque. It's got a fair bit of torque. That'll turn tapes, no problem. Rewind. That belt's probably okay. Let's just put a tape in this thing and see if it plays anything before I go any further. Yeah, capstan took a while to get up to speed there. It plays. Gotta like those meters. I'll tell you one thing, you'll never ever see another cassette deck with meters like that, because that's a one-off. But hey, this thing works. Let's change out that belt, set up the speed on this thing, and clean this thing up. And I'll reset these lights. Looks like the Dolby light isn't coming on. What about the record light? Does it come on? Yeah, the record light lights. Record light lights. But the Dolby, the green Dolby light doesn't light up, but the record light lights up here. Let me find a belt. I'm sure I've got one for this. I've got a big pack of flat belts now, so I can go to town and fix all my old tape decks. So to change the belt on this, we just have to remove the screws that hold the motor in place. That's what I miss about my other little screwdriver, is this one's not magnetic. Well, we'll fix that. Got my screwdriver magnetizer. Belts on these ones are probably one of the easiest to change, because you just loosen off the motor and pop off the belts. There's one belt there. The other belt, I actually have to pull this bracket off the back here, and then I can slip that one off as well. Two more screws hold that in place. One is down here. Where are they? One is right here. I should be able to slip this thing back far enough. I may have to loosen one of these other screws. It's underneath these meters here, so I don't really want to have to take them off, because I got to take the front. I got to take the front off to get those. But I should be able to slip this belt around the back here, over top of the flywheel, or underneath it. Around like that. Okay, now to find a new belt. So the new belt's a little smaller than the old belt, so that should be a little tighter. The old belt is not shot, so it's a little bit sloppy, but I'll hang on to it just in case I need it at some point. So we're going to drop the new belt in. We got to get it in behind or in front of this little post that's inside here, the back of the bearing. So I just spread this back a bit so I can push that underneath there. And I should be able to get it to go underneath the old flywheel and around this side. Sometimes it makes it a bit easier if we just put a bit of tape on here to hold the belt in place as we rotate the flywheel to bring the belt around the bottom side. And we just tape it in place for a couple of minutes while I get the motor and so forth in position. So it's a little bit of tape on top of the flywheel here just to kind of hold the belt in place, and then I can turn this around which will pull the belt around into place. Now the belt is in the proper position, and I can reassemble the bracket. If I tug up on the belt here, you'll see that it should be riding on the pulley completely. If not, I just have to work on it a bit here to get it on the pulley. Okay, now it's on the pulley. I can just pull the belt up there like that just to hold it in position. I need to get the motor switch on the top side of this little lever here, so before I push the mechanism back together, I'm going to lift the mechanism out a bit and lift that switch up to the top side of this bracket, otherwise it won't trigger the motor. So we're just going to do that. So now when I press the play button and stuff, it's going to move that switch up. That's what turns the motor on and off. So now I can put this screw back in the back of the mechanism here to hold it together. Now, if we put power to the unit, I just want to make sure that the motor actually comes on before I put everything back together. So I'll put power to the unit. And when I press buttons, I'll see that the motor will actually turn on. So now I know that my switch is working. So now I can take the motor and put the motor back in place. I'm going to grab the belt, hook it over the motor, and put the motor in place. I don't need to put the other belt on just yet, as that one can be fished on after the fact. All I care right now about is getting the actual motor mounted without losing the capstan belt. It's got my 3 motor screws. And the one at the bottom. Okay, now got my other drive belt. We'll get that in around the pulley. Just gonna get some to pull it through here with. Screwdriver should work. And it will slide down between the chassis and the pulley itself. Nothing magic there. Okay, that's in place. Push that around the other pulley. There we go. Now the belt has been replaced. Let's check the thing out for playback. Yeah, wound flutter on this thing isn't great, is it? It was a cheap deck at the time. Belt drive. Wound flutter's not great on it. A few more things I got to do to this thing. Had an incandescent bulb that lights up the tape. Shot. Time for an LED. Now this thing ran on AC. Little diode here. I can put it across the AC line. Put a 560 ohm resistor on here. That should be more than enough current limiting, I would think. Give us adequate light out of this thing to light up the tape compartment. Just attach the other wire to here and check this out for brightness. Yeah, I think we're good enough. Now I'll put a piece of heat shrink around this. And I gotta fish this back down in where it was before, where the light was, so that I can get the tape lighting up. See, the problem with LEDs is that they're very directional. So where the light sits, I'm not getting good coverage. It lights up, but it's not giving me as good of illumination that the original bulb did. But saying that, you'll still see the tape through there. When the tape cover is back on, the door here, you'll still see the light. Let's see here. No Dolby. Yeah. I do believe that the light itself, the LED, is foobarred. Now, I'm sure that that's got a resistor on there because that was an original light that was on there. It would have been an original LED, but looks like it's failed. Oh well. So I know what you're thinking. This looks orange, right? But it lights up green. Cool, huh? Well, I decided on something a little bit different. I found a clear LED that lights up yellow. Yellow for Dolby noise reduction. I like it. Nice and bright too. and I've measured the current. It's 12 milliamps, so no problem there. There's the record light, much dimmer of course, but it's there. Okay, let's try recording on this thing. We're ready to record. Pause, record and play. Oh, I gotta clean my controls. Let's clean the controls. Get in here with some neutral. The reason I'm using neutral, and it's not a real high-end machine, I don't need to use the good stuff, the deox it. I'll just clean it with good old stock neutral. Once again, before recording, we're going to give this a clean the heads, and that pinch roller and capstan shaft looks a little bit grimy, so we're going to clean that up first because this thing hasn't had a cleaning in many years. So give it a good cleaning first, and then we'll do our test recording. Yeah, I know, I need to demagnetize this. I did it off camera, so don't worry about that. It still sounds like crap. Now it could be that cheap Chinese belt that I just put in the thing, because sometimes these bloody cheap belts, if the thickness varies on them, I might want to clean that pulley off there too. Like I said, there's some crap on the pulley, so maybe we'll try cleaning that. But sometimes if the thickness varies on the belt, as the belt goes around, it will vary. And these belts I got, they were like dirt cheap. You might say I think I got taken to the cleaners. I got what I paid for, because they certainly don't look like good quality rubber like the original ones. Oops. But there is some debris from the old belt on this this pulley. I might be able to turn it on here and clear this off. You can almost see the belt. Look at it. You can almost see the belt riding on the pulley here. See it? See the belt? It's kind of wobbling back and forth. That could be a thickness problem on that belt, the replacement one. If the thickness were to be not true for the entire diameter of the belt, that very likely could be what's causing it. Okay, after cleaning up the pulley, cleaning up the mechanism, as you can hear, it's much better than it was. There's still a bit of wow and flutter there, but not as bad as it was. Well, as you heard, after cleaning off the pulley, it's certainly sounding a lot better than it was before I did that. I think I'm going to leave it at this point now, because I'm not really going to put this thing back into service anyway. It was just kind of a fun project to see if we could get this one going. It hasn't been used. This thing's been in storage for, probably 25 years. It hasn't been turned on. Never mind recorded on or played. So the fact that it actually still works and all it needed was a couple belts. Really quite surprised me. But it's sounding a lot better now, even after cleaning that pulley there. It's made a big difference if you remember the wow and flutter when I did the speed adjustment compared to after. It's sounding a lot better. You guys want to support my channel, you can do it either with PayPal or through Patreon. Any donations I get, I roll back into the channel to buy new things to show you guys. I got a bunch of projects coming up. I got a whole bunch of stuff to work on here, and I've ordered some stuff off of eBay, some new projects to work on. I'm actually buying stuff to work on, buying old stuff to work on. So any and all money that comes in through the channel, through donations, goes right back into the channel to give us some more things to work on. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you again real soon in the next one. Bye for now.